This week on the Road Unfiltered Podcast, we have Dylan Rucker. He's toured with the Cadillac 3 and is now one of the most sought-after DPs in town. You have definitely seen his work if you're a country music fan. What up, dude?
How's it going, man?
Dylan is he's a DP here in Nashville, and he shoots probably some of the most amazing music videos that you see here in Nashville.
I don't know about all that.
I'm a fan, dude, you know.
Well, thank you. Too kind.
And we've worked together, on a couple. We'll touch on that a little bit, but kind of want to just, we're doing this podcast just to kind of like banter and just kind of have some fun, tell some stories and, tell the history and, kind of what kind of gear you use and, all that stuff. This podcast is kind of mostly to like inspire a lot of up and coming people, that want to do this, because it's like, dude, I get so many DMs on Instagram. Yeah. It's like, how do I get your job?
Sure.
What do I need to do? Yeah. What kind of camera do I need to use? And it's like, so instead of responding to everybody individually, I'm like, why not just do a podcast and everybody could just kind of hear it.
Kind of what's interesting about that is how I I know you've got the cans on. How close are you going to want me to like?
You're fine.
Okay.
You're totally fine.
Great. So something that just you saying that kind of reminded me, it is kind of interesting how people have this, there's like an evolution to, like you're reaching out to people and people like you're discovering how you get involved and things like that. And it's funny, back when I still lived in Missouri, I was, just in college and just hanging out, and I owned a camera, like a nice enough camera to like shoot something, a nice enough camera to shoot stuff, right? And so I was like, I want to get to Nashville and I want to shoot on stuff. Like I want to do cool shit. And I was like, it's a town that like wasn't too far away. It was 8 hours away to get to Nashville, right? And so I was like, I can go there on like a weekend or do whatever. And so I started doing research of like artists that I liked, and like, okay, these photos on their Instagram and Facebook and all these things are so cool. And these, at the times, it was like there was a lot of like 2017, 2018, there was a lot of like recap videos existing, and like this artist played in Kansas City and Chicago and this town this weekend. And so I was like doing research on who was doing those, and there was two people that I reached out to right off the bat, and it's really funny how the relationships have evolved from literally me, just like you said, being someone who's reaching out to people's DMs and things. Yeah. The first person that I ever reached out to was Preston Leatherman.
Oh, no way.
And Preston and I have shot, I mean, we always joke like 100 music videos, but we for sure probably shot like 40 or 50 music videos together. Wow. And then the second person that I reached out to was Daniel Vorlay. Literally, I'm not kidding.
That's funny. Yeah, Daniel's going to be on this as well.
and Daniel is literally one of my closest friends to this day, and we've worked together legitimately probably on 100 projects.
Wow.
And what's funny about both of those two is, both of our Instagram DMs, they don't go away. They still exist. Yeah. So once in a while we revisit them, and both of them, the first time that I reached out, ignored me. Ignored my initial reach out.
Of course Daniel ignored
you.
And
Preston, he was working with Luke Combs at the time, and I reached out to him. I was like, dude, this is the way I kind of phrased it. I was like, dude, I love your stills, your photos that you get on the road, your video recaps, the edits are so cool. You do such a great job putting it all together, and it feels like I was basically there this weekend with Luke, right? And then the question that I prompted to get a response was, do you use any presets, or how do you make your photos look so good? And ignored it. And a couple of weeks I think passed at this point, and I come to Nashville. I was staying with a friend, I can't remember what I was, just some random, probably filming a content for like a lyric video or something for somebody that I had reached out to directly on Instagram. And I get to Nashville, and I'm almost certain I see Preston on Broadway. Like this guy that I've only ever seen on Instagram. Right. This is how like crazy, and literally like this is how crazy my reaching out was. But I see him, and I'm like, I know that was him. I go to his Instagram story, and then he was downtown on Broadway.
No, it's just stalking him.
Literally, that's what it was like. It felt like I was stalking him. And I was like, hey, dude, I'm pretty sure I saw you. Ignores me again.
Oh, my God.
And so I'm like, okay, this is twice I've reached out to this guy. He obviously doesn't want to respond. I'm gonna play it safe. I'm just gonna stay back. He's working with Luke, great. And then Daniel, actually, I had reached out to him, and he eventually did respond and was like, hey man, you just got to find an artist, and then you start with the ground level, and then basically like you rise, all ships rise with the tide kind of thing. And pretty good advice and pretty good like response eventually that he gave. And then Preston continued to ignore me. Right. And so I moved to Nashville. Fast forward, I moved to Nashville. Right. And there's a guy named Alex Ferrari, which you know Alex, right? He was with Marin at the time. Yeah. Yep. And he was working this new project with a band called King Calloway. I think they were called at the time. They might still be called that. I think so. Yeah. And so we were doing this project, and I get hired by Alex Ferrari. Right. And he's like, hey man, we need a couple shooters to come into the studio. We're going to kind of cover this whole thing with 3 or 4 cameras. Like, we know you own a Sony. These other guys own Sonys. And so anyways, I walk into the studio, and across the room, I'm like,
no
Preston Leatherman. And so that's how Preston and then that day we hit it off. And then I'm pretty sure like a week or 2 later, he was filming a performance video. He's like, hey dude, you want to come shoot this with me? And then I overslept. I never oversleep. And I'm talking like an hour after call. He calls me and my phone wakes me up. He's like, hey dude, we're supposed to be here at 9. It's 10. I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. I'll be there in 30 minutes. And I was like, okay. He ignores me for months. And then the first time we worked together, I'm an hour and a half late. So I'm like, this guy's never going to want to do anything with me again. And but we ended up having a great time. The shoot ended up going great.
Did you ever ask him why he never responded to your
He
DMs?
just said, at the time he was with Luke, and
just busy.
Well, what happens when you're with someone at 2018, like 2018 Luke Combs. Yeah, it was kind of diluted with all the other Instagram DMs, and I knew that to an extent. And so we just ended up growing our relationship organically, and then there was the era of the 254 Collective, where we were doing so many music videos, and building the foundation of like what we knew at the time to now be what we do every day.
Amazing.
But yeah, it's just, sorry I went on a tangent there right off the rip.
No, it's good. That's good. Does Preston still tour?
So Preston toured for several, up until this last year, but he is now doing, he's developing a couple things, and he actually lives in Boston now.
Oh, wow.
So he still works a lot in Nashville, but he doesn't tour out of Nashville.
Gotcha.
Right now. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think he'll go out, like, I think he did a weekend with Carly 2 months ago, and like they wanted something specific, and said, hey Preston, can you hop on this plane and go to these cities and shoot some stuff for Carly? And he'll do stuff like that. Yeah. But it's mainly project driven stuff at this point. Yeah. So he's not on the road anymore.
See, that's cool. I mean, that's what I love. It's like people that are on the road, and then how they push to other things, you know. It's like, for somebody like me, you know, I've been on the road for 20 years now, you know, literally last month celebrating 20 years doing this.
Yeah, dude.
But it's like, you know, I love, like, kind of like your story. I want to hear the story about like when you went out on the road with Cadillac 3, because I remember I was with Chris Young somewhere in California, and Cadillac 3 was opening, and I think I sent you a photo or something. You're like, oh man, those are my homies. I used to work for them. Yeah. But how did that come about? Like, I mean, so you got to Nashville, and then obviously you shot all that, and then. So
this podcast is gonna be the story of desperation from Dylan. It really is.
Hey, it starts somewhere.
That's right, man. Dude. So I think I need to tell a little bit of backstory before I get into how I actually started. What stemmed into being the Instagram DM reach out thing that I did. So I was in Missouri going to college, and I was cutting grass. Like, that was like my day job. Right. While I was going to college, I was cutting like 40 lawns a week kind of thing.
That's why you have the wheelbarrow in your truck right now.
Exactly.
You're still doing it.
I love it, dude. I love landscaping, man. Do you want to talk about something that's fulfilling? It's like you go out there and there's bare dirt, and then you lay down some mulch and you plant some plants, and then you just stand back and look at it.
It's kind of like pressure washing.
Yeah, it's the same kind of satisfaction.
I mean? But go on.
Dude. But so anyways, I was doing that kind of thing, and in high school, I had filmed a lot of like hunting videos with my friends, using like just literally like the camcorders, like with the digital zooms and all that stuff. Yeah. And so a friend of mine passed away, and my sophomore year of college, for his funeral, I basically went through the archives of all of our footage that we had from high school, and I edited all this footage together and made this video for his funeral. And
amazing.
It was, you know, something I'd never done before in terms of like putting footage together and like going through all that stuff. And so, long story short, an aunt of one of our friends at this funeral was like, hey, that video you did was great. Could you shoot my niece's wedding? And then we'll pay you $250. And I was like, $250? I was like, yeah, I'll go shoot the wedding. You know, at that time, I was like, dang, man.
Yeah, you make money doing this?
Yeah, dude. And so I ended up using a camcorder on that, like the digital zoom and the tripod, you know, and Then I did another wedding and I ended up buying a Sony A7S II, which in 2016, 17, whatever year that came out, I was doing the YouTube thing where it was like, what are all the wedding filmmakers using? And so I'd done, just hours and hours and hours of research, and that felt like the right tool to buy at the time. So I do a few of these weddings, and then I'm getting in the headspace of, wow, I've got a $3,000 camera. I would like to do something more than just a wedding with it. And so what I ended up doing was reaching out to people that I knew in Nashville, not known personally, but like their work.
Right.
And so that's when I would do the reaching out to Preston. I would do the reaching out to someone like Daniel Verlet, someone like that. And so basically what ended up happening was through a series of events and like through a series of Instagram DMs and Facebook messages, and actually one of my best friends to this day, I met at this time, I was reaching out to him on Twitter to shoot his content, and he's the one I ended up staying with when I would come to Nashville, and I would do a lyric video for him, which at the time would be just shooting footage of whatever it was and then just overlaying lyrics, and he'd pay me $100, and then I would stay at his place the weekend I came to Nashville. And so those relationships turned into, hey, can you do a lyric video for this guy? Well, yeah. Hey, can you do a lyric video for this guy? Hey, can you do a lyric video for this guy? And so I ended up doing probably 20 or 30 lyric videos when I was back in Missouri. And it was actually way easier back then because like B-roll was generally for a country music video, it was just country stuff. I was surrounded by it, so it was easy to just capture pretty quickly. And so one of those guys that I met in that time of my life was Neil Mason, who was the drummer of Cadillac 3. He was managing a couple small artists at the time. And so they basically were just artists that he had managed, 2 or 3 artists, and they would send me $100 on PayPal, and I would send them a lyric video.
That's amazing.
And it's awesome, dude. It was just like after class, I was done at noon, I'd go film something, and then that night I'd cut it together.
That's amazing.
And so that's how I got into it. And I knew Neil was with Cadillac 3, obviously. I knew I wanted to get to Nashville. And basically, I came down for CMA Fest. And every time, me and Neil have an awesome relationship at this point, but at this time, I would ask Neil, hey, man, I would love to go out with Cadillac 3. Would love to do something, would love to do something. And then he would ignore those texts, and then I would do the lyric video text. And I was like, well, maybe he doesn't want me to go out. And anyways, CMA Fest, I look up where Cadillac 3 is playing at. And then it was CMA Fest. It was crazy. For some reason, I didn't end up getting to watch the show. But I knew where they were playing.
Right.
And I literally waited out back of the venue. And I saw Cadillac 3 walk into their bus. I'm like, hey, Neil, it's me. I'm the guy who does all your lyric videos. And he came over to the fence. And I said, dude, I'm moving to Nashville in 2 months. This was June. So I'm moving to Nashville in a month. And I would love to go out with you guys as your photographer. I know you guys don't have anybody out with you right now. He's like, okay, man, thanks for reaching out, man. I appreciate it. And like I'm talking to the guy through a chain link fence, and I'm
stalking again.
Literally, that's the thematic base of all this. And time passes. I'm like, well, that was like that. It couldn't have gone any worse. Having to talk through him through a chain link fence, and like whatever. And then didn't do any more lyric videos for him. I moved to Nashville. I was doing other things I had going on. Nothing was going on, and then I get a cold text from Neil, and he's like, hey man, I'm one of those artists that you did lyric videos for. He's going to open for Brothers Osborne this weekend. Would you get in the van with them and go? And for $100 a show, that kind of thing. And I was like, of course. And I get in the van, we go to Virginia or whatever it is, go do the show. And at the time I didn't realize what he was doing, but he was actually vetting me by watching how things went with this other artist. And after that weekend on Monday, he's like, oh, by the way, next weekend, Cadillac's doing a run. Would you go with us? And I did a test run. And then 2 years later, I was touring with them all the time. And we'd done all 48 of the contiguous states. And then we did a couple shows in Canada, a couple shows in Mexico, 7 different countries in Europe. And it all stemmed from...
I didn't know that you traveled that much with them.
2 years, yeah.
So go back to the van story. How was that? Because the thing is, it's like, I mean, I hate to put it like this, but it's like the first artist I ever worked for was Josh Groban, and we were immediately on a bus. And so that was like my first tour was on a bus. I've never done a van tour before. And being a videographer on a van tour, I bet that was...
So I have heard horrible stories where it's like I was the photographer, I drove the van, I booked the hotel,
tour managed, and I mixed the show.
And that happens with artists. And there's some fantastic artists that just aren't in the position to be able to be in
100%
luxury positions. But I've only ever done the one weekend in the van. We did the weekend in the van, and it was honestly really great because it was only in Virginia, so it was like 8-hour drive, and we left at noon, got to the hotel at 8, we were there, then drove 4 hours to North Carolina or whatever the next show was. So it wasn't bad because we had hotels,
and it was probably something that you didn't really know too much about either, too.
I didn't know
because you had never been on
just
a tour
thought
bus.
This is how it was. Just thought this is how it was. And then the next weekend, or I think it was like 2 or 3 weekends later, when I actually went out with Cadillac, but I went out with Cadillac, and those dudes have been on the road since 2000 and whatever. So they've been on the road 15, 20 years, and they are not going to be exactly slumming it. They're a nice bus. Everything is shower on the bus. Everything was nice and taken care of. Their systems are in place. I was the odd man out because they've had, front of house guy, a lights guy, a guitar tech guy, tour manager, and then the band. And they've been touring like that for 10 years. Yeah. And it's so I had to take the junk bunk, you know what I mean? So I was like, so I'm this guy.
What was it like getting on the bus for the first time?
Dude, honestly, a lot of people...
that's always a thing that people talk about.
Yes, and I remember being so freaking nervous and just sitting bus call, and Cadillac's at the size where we're all on one bus. Yeah. It was with when they had the big bunks, it was I think it sleeps 10.
Yeah.
Or 12, 10 or 12.
Yeah.
But they would do the front bunks where the band sleeps. They were the condo bunks.
Gotcha.
And so that would only be 4.
So it'd be like a 2 and 2 and 3 and 3 type thing. Yeah.
So I was in the 3 and 3, obviously, with the crew. But we're all on one bus. And so I remember, in my mind, Jaron, they're freaking rock stars still.
Right.
And I've got to go sleep right next to them. So right. I'm so nervous, Yeah. And that's something, again, people don't talk about is if you're doing this, it's you are literally living your life with the person you're documenting,
100%.
which opens up a whole nother lens to what you're able to shoot.
Yeah.
But I just remember the first night I got on the bus, and I was sitting there, and I was like, "Hey guys," to everybody that walked on, and then I'd look right back down my phone, just so nervous. But
was it one of those things where it's where do I put my bag?
Literally,
how do you open the bay to the bus?
Yep.
What's the code? All that.
Yep. And all of that sort of stuff, and then like I said, I took the junk bunk. Mm-hmm. So everybody was upset with me. All the crew was mad at me because now junk was all over the whole bus, and I'm sleeping where they wanted to put their crap. Right. And but there was just it was a little bit of a learning curve. But I was one of the few people that I've talked to who tour, and I'm interested to hear your perspective on this. But I actually like sleeping on a bus.
Dude, best sleep I ever have.
Yeah.
Is in a bunk, by far. I sleep better on a bus than I do at home.
Literally, some people say they can't do the rumbling. Some people say they can't do the small quarters. But I'm
I don't
get in
mind
there,
it.
Close that curtain. I'm it's like a little
cradle. The moment that bus moves and just starts rolling, I'm out.
Yeah.
I am out cold, and I will sleep the entire bus ride too. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But it's it was funny because when I first started, I was on the bottom bunk, and I feel kind of just scientifically, the bottom bunk doesn't move so much, but you get people's feet walking by.
Right.
Yeah. So I kind of went up to the top bunk, and there's a little bit more of a sway. I guess, I don't know, it probably puts me to sleep, but it's a little more of a rocking motion.
Yeah.
So I prefer the top bunk.
Yeah.
But when I'm out with Carrie, the bus that we're on, not with Carrie, but the bus that I'm on with the crew, it's they're condo bunks.
Yeah.
So I have the top one, and they're great. I mean, you sit up in them.
Yeah.
But I don't do that. I literally get into my bunk, I shut the thing, I'm out, man. I'm out cold.
Yeah. A random thing about my sleeping on the bunk. For whatever reason, I started sleeping low. That's just what the bunk I got was. And with Cadillac, I always did. Because like I said, those guys their systems are tight. It's not, they're not figuring things out. This isn't their first weekend on a bus. They've been doing this for a long time. So I had my bunk, and it was the low one, and I just got used to it. And one weekend I was doing just a one-off weekend with Ryan Hurd, and this was such a crazy thing that anyway. So I was asleep on the bunk. I was sleeping up top for the first time. I always sleep low, right? And so I'm up top, and the bus driver, I don't know exactly what happened, but basically made a big correction, and the whole bus did one of those numbers. And I remember waking up like, it's over, game over. Like, and then like I almost fall out of the bunk.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm done with the top bunk.
Yeah.
And so that was the only night that I've ever actually slept. That was the only run I've ever slept in the top bunk. But what was funny about that was like I remember waking up and being like, oh, this, and like feeling the rumbling, like it's over.
Yeah.
And then I asked everybody, man, that was crazy last night, right? And everybody was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
I woke up and I was like, I thought it was over. And those dudes slept through it.
Dude, there's still times where the bus will like brake really fast and I'll be like, oh shit, is this it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's like, that's scary, man. You know, there's obviously been the stories, you know, obviously Tanner Gallagher, you know, with Hardy, that whole thing. And he's actually going to be on the podcast. Yeah. We're going to hopefully chat about that if he's comfortable with it. You know?
Be interesting to hear about all that. That's I mean, obviously that's the biggest fear when you're on the road is
100%.
That's the only thing. And then, you know, the other part about Cadillac that was so great was like their driver was like, man, he was smooth,
just good.
Like we were buttered in. And I'm not saying that like I know that Tanner's situation was an extreme situation and it was beyond the control of anybody, but there was a peace of mind that came with Mike, and whenever we went to our Cadillac's bus driver.
And you're right about that, because there are bus drivers out there that just are amazing bus drivers, and then there's some that are just like, this guy is our driver. You know, it's like, but dude, you got to tell me, like, is there any like cool, fun stories about being out with Cadillac? I'm sure they were a riot to be out there with, because I've seen them, you know, many times. You know, when I've been out doing festivals or whatever, you know, or they're as an opening act. They're amazing. Amazing. Jaron's just, dude's a beast.
They're rock stars. All three of them are total
beast.
They're all three legitimately like rock stars.
And what a songwriter Jaron is, dude. I mean, come on, man. You know,
he's the best, dude. So the craziest thing about Cadillac 3 is that how incredibly talented they are individually, and then the respect that they have within the industry. Everybody knows and loves Cadillac 3 within the industry, within Nashville especially. And so the coolest part of it's not really one story, it's just kind of like the collection of my time with Cadillac 3. It's like every time we ever did anything, when Jaron was around, and Steven Tyler would come hang out on the bus. And we would go hang out on Little Big Towns. It was just like everybody wanted to be around the Cadillac 3 because they're just so cool. And so that was that. If I were to I probably have a couple specific stories, but the main one was the main cool part of Cadillac 3 was wherever we were doing, there was going to be just the coolest people you could ever think of around, because everybody wanted to be around Cadillac 3 with how awesome they were. And I think Kid Rock was one. A crazy story, but that one's probably not podcast safe. But I remember Steven Tyler came on our bus, and we did I think it was a private show. Cadillac was doing a private show in like Cleveland or something like that, and Steven Tyler was playing as Steven Tyler. They weren't Aerosmith at the time. They were in that. And I just remember them coming on the bus, and they were like, okay, Steven Tyler's getting ready to come on the bus. Everybody just hang out. He did his set. We did our set. He did his set. Like, just everybody just hang out. And Steven came on the bus at like 11 o'clock. And I remember them having to kick Steven Tyler off our bus at 3:30 a.m. because we had to get on the road to the next show.
That's amazing.
And so that was like, he like the stories that he was telling us, the things he was telling us, that for sure was.
See, those are the moments, man. Those are the moments that a lot of like, you know, we get to live these like crazy, like there's times where I'm in a spot where I don't know, with Carrie, and there's this other person there, and I'm just like, God, legend, you know? It's like, I'll never forget. I mean, just recently we were in Las Vegas, and Carrie did a Sunday Night Football interview on the field. And, you know, I go and I follow her around, and I shoot all these little bits and photos and stuff like that. And we went up and we sat in the suite of the Raiders owner suite, and I'm sitting there and like Carrie's hair and makeup girl, Melissa Schleicher, was sitting next to me, and Carrie was sitting there. And then like, I'm looking over here, and right behind me is Reggie Jackson from the Yankees, like amazing. Legendary. And then I'm looking down here, and it's Mike Tyson. It's like, what is life right now, dude? You know, it's like this. So it's like those kind of moments. It's like, oh, all of a sudden Steven Tyler's coming up on the bus. You know, it's those things that like a lot of us, you know, because we have to be there and we're documenting all this stuff, you know, and it's like, you get to experience like just these moments that you'll never forget.
Yeah, dude.
You know,
that's for sure. Like, there was so many moments with Cadillac 3. Like I said, the Cadillac's just so cool that everybody wanted to be around. And there was definitely times where surreal moments were like, wait, I'm standing here and Steven Tyler's sitting next to me talking about this, and then I look over here and this person's talking about that. And then there was just so many moments. Being on the road is such an interesting perspective because you really are the closest person to the artist physically, first off. Like, you're always within proximity. You're the closest person to them at all times. So you're kind of secondarily living the life with them in an interesting way.
Exactly. And it's funny because I always, you know, a lot of people, you know, like we were talking about how with the whole DM thing and, you know, reaching out and stuff like that, I feel like, you know, a lot of these people that are reaching out saying, hey, how do I get your job and stuff like that? Yeah. There's a lot of elements that come into play, you know, obviously, like when you're with an artist, it's like, you know, if you're filming something or you're filming like a BTS thing, you got to kind of know like when to be in their world and then kind of fly on the wall too, you know, because at the end of the day, they're still the artists. They still have to do their thing, but it's like, you can't, I just feel like there's times where you shouldn't just be up in their grill all the time. You know what I mean? Where you could kind of float back a little bit and let them do their thing. You know, but
my biggest piece of advice, because it's fun, all the stories we started with were me being a stalker following all these people, but the best thing that I think I did that allowed me to be in certain rooms pretty quickly was I pretty extensively and pretty exclusively only reached out to people that I would do a fair amount of research on, because you can do that so easily now. That I really did feel like I would gel with. My vibe would fit with their vibe, and my personality would work with their personality. And so Cadillac 3 is another one where it's like, oh, I get those dudes. I get their music. I get their vibe. Everything they put out is like, I get I would fit well in the circle. It doesn't make sense for me to try to work with XYZ artists just because of their stature if it's not my thing. And the hard truth of it is you're in what we do in terms of the touring stuff and being like basically a documentarian for an individual like that, like what we're talking about. You have to be liked by the artist better than your skill liked by the artist. So if you're spending, like I said, I was sleeping in the same bus as Cadillac 3. I was a photographer for them all day long. We were eating all of our meals together. Well, it doesn't matter how good I am. If they can't stand me. Then I'm not going to last very long. But you have to learn all those boundaries of like, okay, he just ordered a cheeseburger and he just ordered salmon, so I'm going to put the camera away. Like they don't need a shot of this. But Steven Tyler just walked in the room and he just sat on my chair and gave him a hug. You know, that's okay, now I can click, because he wants that photo. Jaron wants that photo.
Well, I always thought too, like, you know, for these kids that, you know, and people that want to do this, it's like, you know, I feel like your skill will get you there, but in Nashville, I feel like the relationships are so important that I always say that, hey, your work is going to get you there, but your relationships are going to keep you there. You know, that's like 100% huge important, because the thing is, it's like if you're like a camera guy, but you're kind of an asshole, you know, it's like, you're probably not going to be around for a while if you're kind of like arrogant and I should be doing or whatever, you know.
A sports analogy would be the ball don't lie.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's true.
It's true. Like I said, I have some of my most talented friends are specifically with specific artists because not of their skill, but because of their ability to have this certain relationship with this individual, whether it's an artist, whether it's whoever it is. Basically being able to manage that relationship as a, not as a friend, but it eventually always evolves into a friendship because of the sheer amount of time you're spending together, but being able to professionally manage how you present yourself and act and talk and do your things, because the photos will come and your skill that way will obviously shine through or it won't shine through or whatever, but how you gel with the artist is the most important
1,000%. Yeah. That's how Chris Young and I were. And, you know, Chris is amazing. Like he really is like, he's a great guy, you know, and he's very generous and he's very caring and he's always asking you like, Are you good? You know? And he was the only artist that I actually traveled on the bus with. Like,
really? Like
I wasn't
with them,
I wasn't on like a crew bus or a band bus or anything like that. He's the only artist that I've ever worked for that I traveled on the bus with.
Yeah.
And recently, Megan Moroney, when I would go out and shoot some stuff with her, we all were on the same bus, and there was like 12 people on the bus.
Filling it up. Yeah.
But it's cool because it's like that's new for them. And they're all experiencing all this new stuff. But anyways, it's like. Yeah, with Chris, it was that was the only artist that I really had, toured with for 6 years.
Yeah.
But it was cool because it was like, I would be editing photos on the bus and you'd kind of like be over my shoulder and you'd be like, yeah, dude, I like that one. I like that one. No, get rid of that one, know?
Yeah.
But
are you planning on having Matt Paskert on this?
I want to.
Yeah.
I want to.
Definitely reach out to him.
I feel like if this is a thing and it's successful, I think there'll be a season 2.
Yeah.
The
reason I bring him up specifically is because of his relationship he had with Jake Owen for so long. And it was the same way where they were touring with 3 or 4 buses, but Matt had such a unique look at Jake's life because it was just the 2 of them on that second bus. And
wow, yeah.
On Jake's bus, and it got to the point where Jake loves photography as well. So they literally they were like learning together on certain things and like constantly growing together. And like something that Matt Paskert, Daniel, we've all talked about is like you truly do have a unique perspective on the artist because every artist can look like a rock star on stage, but there's the element of when you're spending 24 hours a day with someone, like you actually see a totally different individual than what's presented.
1000%.
And so that allows you the opportunity to get unique shots of these artists because there's going to be 10 photographers in the pit, but there's not going to be any backstage.
Exactly.
And so there's these interesting things that being on the bus with Chris Young, being on the bus with Cadillac 3, Dustin Lynch.
It's a trust thing.
It's a trust thing that you build, and it allows you to actually capture shit that like in 10 years they'll look back at and appreciate as well.
Exactly.
Because you're capturing like I said, there's going to be 10 photographers in the pit, but the shot of this artist's mom came to see this show, so you got a shot of the mom giving a hug backstage, and like that true moment or whatever. That's the stuff that it might not get the most likes on Instagram, but in 10, 15, 20, 30 years, the artist is going to look back and say, man, I'm glad
that was captured. 100%.
And so that was honestly the coolest part of being so close with the band and like being able to spend 2 years with them basically. And it got to the point too, like the Steven Tyler one just came up, but obviously, when it's Steven Tyler, he comes on the bus, it's like everybody play it cool, don't be sticking a camera and everybody's just hanging out, And I still have this hilarious memory of Neil coming up to me, he's like, hey man, don't get your camera, but like get a shot of Jaron and Steven hanging out. And so I pulled out my phone and I was like, and so my only photo of that night is literally from the iPhone.
But now it's a great story.
It's awesome. And it's like the coolest photo we took all week.
Exactly.
Because of the moment,
Yeah, exactly. But, and that's what that's a thing too, it is about a moment. Because like you said, it's like there can be 10 photographers shooting a live show, but to have that moment of saying like one of your artists backstage having their time with themselves before they go on stage, those are great things for the artist to have or the world to see too, because it's like that's what they don't get to see that. We get to live it and we get to photograph it, but it's like it's really cool for the world to see that kind of stuff.
I also, one of my favorite things that I did was when I was doing the tour photography, I didn't do a lot of the video because it just wasn't working with the way that we were touring, I think. But something I loved doing with the photo stuff was juxtaposing the rock stars at noon and then the rock stars at showtime.
Right.
And it's like, oh wait, I didn't even realize I saw them at a coffee shop at noon today.
Right.
It's like, because they didn't have their stage clothes on. They don't look like rock stars. They just look like the guy that I know. And I loved being able to take photos throughout the day, throughout Jaron and Neil and Kelby would all try to find good local food. They would try to find good local coffee shops, just get out and about and we would just walk around the town sometimes, just walk around whatever. And like, that's like, we would capture those moments where it was just like them just walking around enjoying the new area that they hadn't been to in 10 years or 5 years or haven't ever been to. And then there's also going to be this shot of Jaron standing on the wedge at the front of the stage, spitting his beer into the sky and his guitar holding up like this.
Well, I always look at it. It's like, it's a character.
They play.
You know, it's a character. You know what I mean? It's just another form of them as the rock star, or it's a character.
Yeah.
It's wild to me because it's like you could be on the bus and just be a completely different kind of person. You know, not in a bad way or anything, but it's just like. And then you get on stage and it's like, whoa, they just totally transpired into this thing, you know?
Yeah. And that's another thing we talked about a second ago about the trust that you build with them. There is an element, and then I learned this quickly whenever, hey guys, let's go grab a coffee at this place. The bus gets there at 7 or whatever. And like, hey, let's go grab a coffee, or let's go over to this place. I actually would very much see a change in whether it was just Kelby or whoever. If I would just go out with just me and Kelby and one of the lighting guys or something, we would go to a coffee shop. When I would bring my camera, all of a sudden I would see his tone change because he's like, oh crap, I got to go to work now.
Yeah.
And he's going to be trying to capture this. And so finding that balance of like making sure you're not making them go to work, but also at the same time being able to capture organic things. And so there's a lot of, in that trust building process with the artist. And when you first get out there, it's like, if you've got a point and shoot around your neck, well, that's not too invasive. But if you've got 24 to 70, a 70 to 200, and then you've got, you know, a 5D over your shoulder or whatever.
I'm guilty of that.
Well, there's you build this certain level of trust with that artist where it's like, if we're going to go grab coffee, maybe we just bring the point and shoot.
Exactly.
And if there's a moment, we capture it. But if there's not, we don't have lenses on our hips and 3 cameras on us or whatever. But there's moments for sure. But basically, you're building that trust, and it's going to be constantly evolving, and it's going to be constantly growing too. So it is an interesting thing that you build, and I think that every photographer and artist relationship will be unique. And that's why everybody must have some sort of ability to grow together in the first place. And so that's why, like I said a second ago, it's important to be reaching out and talking to people who are going to be adjacent with your personality, going to be adjacent with your outlook on life and things like that. Because if it's, you know, two opposing forces and like, no, I'm going to bring all my cameras. Well, I don't want you to bring anything for this. Or if you're at a coffee shop and they're like, why didn't you bring your camera?
Exactly.
You know, so you've got to find your relationship with that artist.
Well, and that's the great thing about artists too. It's like, I love nowadays that, you know, a lot of these artists are able to kind of see what other people are doing and kind of make their own unique kind of, you know, content as well. You know what I mean? Or like their own kind of way of how they want their photo like edited, or what kind of filter or whatever, you know, it is on there. As much as I don't like filters, you know, it's a thing. It's a thing. And it's not going to go away. You know?
One of the things that actually Daniel and I have talked about a few times too, and this is kind of like whenever I was doing, I want to hear your perspective on this too, but whenever I was doing started touring, and so this would have been 2018 and 2019, I actually quit touring in February of 2020. 1 month.
Oh my God.
Literally.
Right.
I was supposed to do a pickup show the day that I was like supposed to do a Ryan Hurd show. The day that like it all felt, and I remember like that morning, like, hey, they're cutting the capacity to the show to 1,000. And then at lunch it was like, hey, the capacity of the show is now 500.
Oh, wow.
Hey, the capacity of the show is 50. Hey, I think they're going to talk about postponing it till tomorrow. And then so I quit right around that time, and so I got very late on my transitional point. But
I remember the day that I was out with Chris Young, and we were at the Houston Rodeo.
Dude, that's right. I remember that was going on.
And we were in the production office, and that was the morning that the news broke that Stagecoach was canceled. Coachella was canceled.
South by Southwest was one of the first ones to go too.
Yeah, and I was like, holy shit, what is happening? This is for real right now, you know? And I'm sitting there in production, I'm like, damn, this show's going to be wild. But the thing is about the Houston Rodeo is the stage is in the middle of the stadium. So it's like all these people are way out. So you're like sitting there going, you know, this COVID thing, what is this all about? You know, is this for real? You know? And I'll never forget, Chris came off stage and we left, and the next day they shut everything down. No more Houston Rodeo. It was done. He was the last artist to do it. You know, and we're like driving back on the bus going back to Nashville, and we're like, shit, what's going to happen now? You know, and then all of a sudden, like, the show the next week was gone. And then the show in 2 weeks was gone. And then all of a sudden everything was gone. And we're just like, oh my God, now what? You know, we're all kind of freaking out going, what do we do now? But it kind of brings it back to, you know, in 2020, you know, I felt like, and this is probably where you know, probably got a lot of work as well. But I feel like the content creators got busy in 2020 because we were kind of the only outlet.
Yeah.
You know, not an outlet. We weren't the only outlet, but we were kind of like the only thing that could get close to an artist that could actually like film a liner or film like an acoustic performance or something just to kind of like get to the fans.
Yeah.
You know, so I felt like all of a sudden, man, I'm like, all of the videographers and photographers are busy in 2020. Yeah. You know, so that was kind of that was a really wild time.
Yeah. I remember when 2020, when things started going south with live stuff and like everything canceling, I remembered being, you know, happy for myself, but I felt bad for my touring friends because I was getting busier and busier because the need for visual stuff was double, triple, and then next thing you know, it was the only thing they were doing was visual stuff. Yep. And so all my friends who worked in audio, all my guitar tech friends, all of my lighting friends, they were doing regular jobs by the end of 2020. They were doing carpentry, they were installing TVs, they were doing, and I remember feeling guilty because I was like, this is the best year I have ever had.
I know.
And then a lot of my touring friends were having to get day jobs.
Yeah.
And I remembered that being a particularly like just an unfortunate thing that kind of ping pong back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's funny because it's like a lot of the work that we did, I remember, let me take this back a little bit, but when we finally started kind of like getting back a little bit, one of the first things, you know, because it went to a lot of live stream stuff.
Yes.
You know, there was a lot of live stream, like what was it? Good Morning America, Today Show. We're sending everything to us to just trust us to film all these like performances for their morning shows or whatever. But I'll never forget. I did one with we did a live stream recording performance thing with Scott Stapp of Creed, and that was kind of like, you know, I remember we getting in the studio and that was the first thing that we did out of COVID, and everybody's masked up, and it's like, man, it's like, what do we do? Do we trust this? Is this like, because you know everything was so new, you know, and all that, but that's where it was like, okay, now I have a feeling it's going to get really busy because everybody's going to start kind of following this pattern.
So my perspective of 2020 was like I said, I quit touring at the beginning of the year, and all of that work went away, and I started focusing on music videos. And then obviously I was kind of in the same boat where it was like, hey, this artist isn't comfortable doing this music video. You guys cool doing it in 2 weeks? And then it was like, well, that music video went away, and blah, blah, blah. And so when there was like that lull for like 6 weeks where nothing happened at all. And then obviously because of lockdowns, but then I did, like, it wasn't a live stream, but it was like, I think it was John Party needed to get a taping to Good Morning America. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, that was interesting. Never done anything like that before. Yeah. And then next thing you know, Carly Pearce needed one for the Kelly Clarkson. And it was just like everything we were doing was these live performance, pre-taped things to send to television. I was like, and next thing you know, it's the end of 2020, and we'd done like 30 or 40 of these performance videos. And then
the great thing was the budgets actually weren't that bad.
Because and what I learned from that, because I knew the logistics of if you're going to do late night talk shows, if you're going to do good morning shows, like you think about the expense of that. You're flying the whole band.
Exactly.
You're flying management. You're flying stylists. You're flying all that
hotels.
So now you don't have to do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And you just put that same expense and just put it into the video production.
Yep. The artist gets to just drive to the location, do their thing, and leave, Nashville, you know, and they're home. You know.
Well, with John Party, we did it in his shop.
Oh wow.
He has a shop.
He didn't have to leave.
Literally.
Amazing.
But there was a lot of that, and basically, like, it was it's not that it didn't exist, but there was a lot of first in terms of like what physical media we were actually delivering that year. Yeah. And I'm telling you, I probably did 40 of those like taped for television type things. And some of my friends did get to, like the guitar techs, they would get to come out because they kind of treated it like a live show. Yeah. Because it was all of them were kind of the same in the sense of like, hey, we need to tape this new single for Good Morning America. But while we've got the full band here, full sound system in, and a camera team, we're going to shoot 3 more songs.
Yeah, exactly.
And so there was an element of getting some of that crew working there. But
so what led you into the music video world? I mean, was that in 2020, or were you doing music videos prior to that?
like I said, I met Preston, and like when we finally became friends.
Yeah.
This is gonna be so funny when you hear this, Preston.
Yeah.
But in 2018, I started touring, and so for those of you who don't know, in country music has a unique touring thing where we leave Wednesday night. You play a Thursday show, a Friday show, a Saturday show, and you're back in Nashville on Sunday. I didn't realize that was as unique to Nashville as it is. LA doesn't tour that way. Other major cities, New York doesn't tour that way. Yeah. Artists based out of there. One of the unique things about Nashville is that it's pretty much, you're going to bus calls Wednesday at midnight or
Weekend Warrior.
And so we're Weekend Warriors. And so what that would do for us creatives would we'd be in town Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday. Yeah. And so Preston and I were both touring. He was with Luke, Thomas Rhett, just kind of mixed bag of artists that he was working with. I was a Cadillac, and so we were both in town, and we both knew a lot of smaller independent artists, and we would do $500, $1,000, $1,500 music videos all week. And I'm telling you, man, we would do stuff like we would get enough money together to rent Red this or an Alexa Mini that, and we would shoot 3, 4, 5 music videos in 2 days. Like, we would meet this artist at 8 a.m. and we'd shoot until 1, and then we'd start the next music video at 3, and then I would go to bed till midnight. Yeah. And then I'd get on the bus and I'd edit the whole ride. But no, so I got started by small independent stuff where it was like I was touring during the weekend, doing the Weekend Warrior thing. And then Preston, myself, there was a couple other people that I was working with at the time doing small music videos and just kind of like independent, really, really, really independent stuff. Yeah. And we did that. We did that a lot. And then it got
but that's the good thing. Like people, that want to get into this, doing the kind of the small budget things is huge for like the knowledge.
So much.
You learn so much.
The biggest thing that you can do as an individual trying to grow as a filmmaker, as a photographer, whatever it is just like the reps of it all. Yeah. Like you're going to learn your style. You're going to learn how you work. You're going to learn what you like doing, what you don't like doing. Yep. And the only way to do that's by doing it. Yeah. And the beauty of Nashville is that there are 100 million artists in this town. Everybody is an artist. Your neighbor is an artist. The person who lives across the street, the person who just ordered coffee in front of you. Everybody's an artist, and they all have $500. So it's like you can go shoot any time in this town. That's the beauty. If you're willing to go shoot a music video for $500, you could make a Facebook post today and we could shoot 3 by midnight tonight. Yeah, exactly. And that's true. That's how this town works. And so Preston and I were basically doing that. And like I said, I bet we shot 40 or 50 music videos in 2019 and 2020. We spent a lot of time doing that. And so towards the end of 2019, I was touring with Cadillac 3, Ryan Hurd. I was doing like a couple weekends with a guy named Dylan Carmichael. I'm trying to think who else I went out with. Pretty much those. Those were like the 3 that I spent most of the time with. But Weekend Warrior stuff with that, and then we'd do those music videos, and then I started getting other jobs and other directors and new people that I hadn't met before through networking with Preston, through meeting Daniel, through meeting all these people. And so by 2019, I was doing quite a bit of stuff for other people outside of just by the end of 2019. Yeah. And so that's how I got like the courage to be like, okay, I think what I like doing is I want to be on set. That's what I like. I love the almost documentarian lifestyle of being a tour photographer, but like what I love is walking into a room and being like, okay, we got to shoot this scene, these two talk, and then this happens, then we've got to do this. Okay, now, and then I love the technical execution of figuring all that out. Yeah. And so that's how
damn good at it too, dude. Seriously.
But that's how I was like, okay, I want to be a cinematographer, because when it's me and Preston filming a music video, we were the art department. We were the craft services department. We were the camera department. We were the lighting department. We were all of it. And it wasn't like he was director, I was DP, I was DP, whatever it was. It was just like we had to do all the stuff to get the video done. And so when I started getting gradually bigger and bigger jobs, I would be like, okay, the part that I like about this is what I now realize is the cinematography part. Yeah. And so as the job started getting bigger, I would tell my friends, hey, I'm a DP now. Right. And so at the beginning of 2020, I was like, I'm quitting touring. I'm a cinematographer. And I had the biggest video I'd ever done at that point was like a $12,000 budget. And at that time, I was like, oh, I'm a rich and famous DP, $12,000. Right. They hired me to DP a $12,000 music video. Like, I'm right. But at that time, and so I quit. And I started having a little bit of what like felt like, okay, I can do this moment. And that's when COVID hit.
Yeah.
My first 2 budget videos that were like $20,000. I still have the treatments and everything in my mind, but they were both $20,000, and they were scheduled to shoot March 18th and March 23rd of 2020.
Yeah.
And I remembered one artist calling, and I was on with the producer and on the phone with the producer and everything, and being like, hey, we don't really feel comfortable bringing a crew together with this stuff. Let's do this after this lockdown thing, and then we'll do it.
Right.
And both of those went away. And so as those went away, my self-esteem went down as well. Right. But basically what ended up happening that I didn't realize was happening at that exact time was all of my, as we talked about, content creator friends on the road, by default are no longer on the road, and they all have connection to artists.
Yep.
So all of my friends became directors.
Yeah.
And I was the only one who became a DP.
Right.
So it's like on the road, I met Alex Alvga touring for Kane Brown.
Yeah.
I met Mason Allen touring with Old Dominion. I met Alex Ferrari touring with Maren Morris. I met, I think Alexa was with Carly at that point. Was she with Carly at COVID?
I don't know.
Right around that time. So anyway, like I get 7 or 8 friends that I've had a great time on the road with. We built these relationships with. And now they all just became directors.
Right.
So I kind of hit the just this incredibly luck, just a big pot of luck. I hit it. And all of them were like, hey, we're going to shoot this performance video for Good Morning America or Late Night with whatever.
Yep.
I'm going to direct it. Can you DP it? And then guess what else happened? Daniel Verlet became a Steadicam operator, and Matthew Bellamy became a first AC. And next thing you know, it's like we're in this new world of all of these content creators being directors and me being a cinematographer, and we're like all learning together, growing together. And next thing you know, these directors get trusted with the music video.
Yep.
And so by the end of 2020, I was shooting tons of music videos because of this basically default by proximity. These creators were very near to these artists, and they didn't want to hang out with other people. They wanted to hang out with their photographer or their guy or their whatever, or their girl.
Yep.
And that's how basically it started. And dude, I'm telling you, I was so lucky that all of my friends became directors.
Yeah. So, it was really funny because how I was introduced to you was, I think it was, man, I don't even know what video it was or what it was, but I DM'd Daniel. I mean, Daniel and I have been friends for 7 years now, you know.
Daniel's the man.
Daniel and I toured together on, he was with Dustin Lynch and I was with Chris Young, and they were touring. That's how Daniel and I met. And, but I remember I reached out to him. It was either a DM or a text or something. And I said, hey, I'm like, I'm looking for a DP. I'm like, who would you suggest? Give me top 3 in Nashville right now. And first one, Dylan Rucker. And I'm like, okay, all right. I've seen his work. He's pretty badass, you know? So I think I reached out to you at some point for something. I can't remember, but
dude, what was the first thing we worked on?
Oh man, it's funny because I'm like looking at kind of a list, but I feel like there was something else. But I know we did Steady Heart for Cameron Marlowe.
Yeah, was that our first one together? That wasn't.
I don't think so.
We've done like four projects together, right?
Yeah, we did one with Austin Foreman.
Yep, Austin.
And where was that again? What place?
Palace.
Nashville Palace. Remember that was that very kind of like basic, but it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Austin's a trip, man.
Great time.
Emily Ann Roberts.
Yes, the building.
At the Ryman.
Yeah, that was a sick,
dude.
That was a sick video.
Oh my god, man.
I love making that video.
We'll have to talk about that one a little bit because that one's pretty legendary. And then I'm Not Pretty with Megan.
Yeah, so there's 4.
And that was just recent. But I feel like there was there something else? We're gonna figure it out when we walk away.
I'm gonna wake up tonight at midnight
and just shoot me a text, dude. But yeah, like that Emily Ann Roberts video.
Yeah, dude.
The Ryman.
Yeah, that one was. I remembered when you hit me up about that being like, so we've got the Ryman. I'm just being so pumped up.
Which is very rare to get.
It is
because
not easy to get. For
Emily is managed by Narvel. Mm-hmm. And apparently there was some sort of connection there with the Ryman. They're like, yo, we've got the Ryman. Yeah. And I'm like, and it's for this song called The Building. Yeah. And I'm just like, oh my God. It's like, okay, we need to make this as epic as possible, you know?
Yeah.
And you came in and crushed it.
Well, I love that one. That was my first time ever shooting in the Ryman. I feel like the only time that I've really heard people shoot in the Ryman, Matt Pasker did one with Larry Fleet in there. I remember they said it was very expensive, but it's pretty much pretty exclusive for documentary stuff. There was a couple television series filmed in there.
Yeah,
they did the what was that? They just did it. It was a HBO big show, something in Tammy. George and Tammy?
Oh yeah.
They filmed a lot of it in there, really on location.
I feel like they don't give that place up a lot to film anything. Unless it's like super like exclusive or something, or you're paying a shitload of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Carrie shot there, right? She did
that. She did that whole My Savior performance thing there.
Didn't they rebuild the stage and stuff too?
They put a ramp out and
catwalk
everything.
Out there.
Yeah, catwalk. Yeah, I wasn't there for that.
Okay,
I wasn't on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a prior commitment to something else or something. But yeah, that was epic. And Emily's doing great, man. She's opening. For sure. She's opening for Blake Shelton this year.
That's huge.
Really cool. Yeah, But
I've heard her name a lot. I've heard her songs a lot. I've heard her name a lot. I've heard people. She's for sure having a moment.
But she, when they came at me with the Ryman and stuff, I was just like, okay, how are we going to make this epic? And the great thing is like it was empty Ryman.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Which just makes it. There's just kind of like this like haunting-ish type of thing. But then you get to see the scope of the Ryman without the crowd in there, and like Daniel's shots. Daniel Vorlay was a steady cam up on that. Some of his shots that he had of Emily from behind, it was just like,
where you get the whole scale of the whole thing.
This is like it was so insane.
Yeah, dude, that was a lot of fun video. And I also do. I think the most fun I've ever had was I'm Not Pretty though. Just diving into those looks and just diving into
that was fun. It's funny doing the Megan Moroney I'm Not Pretty music video. It was cool because Megan and I got to concept that together. And she had so many ideas. Yeah. There were so many thoughts that she had, and it was like. And the label had some ideas too, and we just kind of like scaled it all into like. We had to scale it into a 3-minute video. Right. Like with all the ideas that she had, it could have been like a 15-minute film or something, But yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was a 2-day shoot, and we shot a bunch of it down at Worldwide.
Yep. Built the sets and built it all.
Yeah. We had some great people on that.
Yeah, that was a blast.
On that shoot too.
Pretty much the dream team on that one.
Yeah, and Megan's crazy talented.
No Caller IDs, having a moment for sure.
That song, it's funny. I remember she played that for me like acoustically on the road, and I was just like, oh my god, that is. I mean, she's she's an anomaly. I feel like you know what I mean. It's like there's just like there's artists that come out that I don't know. They're so obviously unique and so talented. And it's just there's so many in Nashville, but there's some that just stick out, and she's one of those that definitely sticks out
for sure.
Yeah, no, she's gonna be huge, huge.
She already is, but she's gonna continue to be like legend status for sure. It's funny talking about. I was serious earlier when I said if you go out to a coffee shop right now, everybody in there is an artist.
Yeah, oh yeah,
it's like everybody it's true. In this town. Everybody,
I know.
Everybody's got a guitar and a couple of songs and a notebook.
I know. It's so
That's
funny.
That's the beauty of Nashville, though.
Yeah, exactly. It's great because I mean, there's a vibe here, man.
Yeah.
It's like people moving to Nashville. I love that people still move to Nashville.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I've been here for 17 years now.
Yeah, dude.
I remember Nashville only had like 7 buildings.
Yeah, dude.
Or like big buildings.
Yeah.
Every time I go down to Nashville now, I'm like, man, where did that building come from? Where did that come from? But
I've only been here 5 years, and there's even
such growth, man.
Just driving,
it's crazy.
Driving the 40 loop and 40 and 65, the loop like goes around downtown. Just like literally just taking that drive has changed so much. Yeah. And what you see just in 5 years, or I guess I'm going on 6 years now.
Yeah.
But, it just, I mean, obviously in the Cadillac 3 dudes, I've heard a lot of their perspective of things because they're OGs of Nashville. They've been here for forever.
They've been here for a while. Yeah.
And I grew up here, went to high school here, the whole nine, and so they talk about the change of I mean, they're like, it's not even the same city. Yeah. It's like the city's in there, the heart of it's still in there, but it's just not the same city as it was even 5 years ago, let alone 20, 25 years ago when they were really coming up playing clubs and like they were like, we used to live downtown and decent little apartments. We paid like $300 a month in like 2005, and like not anymore.
Not anymore. No. Yeah, that's funny. So let's talk a little bit about this. This is actually going to be kind of fun because I kind of want to pick your brain at this a little bit. Obviously you've done a shitload of music videos in Nashville, and gear.
Yeah.
Like because everybody, the great thing about photography and videography and DP, or being a director of photography, is gear is important.
Sure.
Because the thing is, it's like anybody could get a camera, but I feel like lenses are the most important.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I want to kind of deep dive into like what you prefer to use in your kind of method,
Yeah. So my perspective on the gear talk is I want to learn gear as quickly as possible so I can forget about the technicals and focus on what I'm doing. And so I've always been of the mindset that is like, excuse me, like I said a second ago where I was talking about I did weddings and I bought the Sony A7S II. I just rampage scrolled through YouTube watching every video there was talking about gear in town and what everybody's using right now. I said, okay, that's the best. That's good enough. Let's do it. And then I learned everything about it. And then as soon as I could, I forgot everything about it just so I could focus on what I was shooting.
Yeah.
So as long as you've got something, and you focus on what you're doing, it's the perspective of you that's going to shine through no matter what piece of gear you have.
Yeah.
And so basically my gear perspective is, it is funny how I can take whatever camera and whatever lens it is, and you're still going to see me you're going to say, oh, Dylan probably did that because of this is how he does this color or this light or this balance or this contrast ratio, or that's how he edits this photo. It's like you're still going to be able to see through and all those sorts of things. So when it comes to the gear side of things, I'm kind of spoiled at this point, but just get the best and don't even worry about what it is. It's like
So 2024, we're here right now. What's your camera choice?
A Venice 2.
Venice 2.
I shoot everything with a Venice 2 right now.
Yeah.
It's the most versatile. It's just the most best looking in my opinion in terms of professional video cameras. But it's actually funny we're talking about gear right now because just this morning I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. We were talking about doing a video and we were just talking through options, what we were going to do. And about 3 months ago, I did my first ever video where we used a GoPro, for like a real video, real shoot, real thing. And I remember being just blown away by how good it actually looked. And I was like, I could actually use this on like a real project. If I had a situation where we needed to throw a camera across the room or slide it underneath this, I was like, this is like a feasible thing. The GoPro 11 was like, is it 11 that they have out right now?
I think it's the 11, right? 11's the new one?
12, I think.
12's
whatever the newest one is.
Yeah.
I would remember being like, looking at the image and like, wait a second, this is actually really nice. It's like, it's actually pretty nice to use that for like quick throwaway stuff like that. But I'm also to the point where I'm doing a big video next February 8th and 9th. Doing a big one, and we're going to be using the FX3 for most of it. Yeah, I've
heard nothing but great things about the FX3 actually.
And the reason that we landed on that was because we're going to be doing some dark stuff where it's a lot of nighttime stuff, and we just want to be able to bump the ISO on the camera. But I have worked on several projects where we've used the Venice, FX9, FX6, FX3, insert Sony line of camera here. Yeah. And we did this shot with the Venice, and we did this shot with the FX9, and we did this shot with the FX3. And I remembered being on an email with the colorist, and the colorist was asking which one was which.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how good the FX3 is right now.
Yeah. Wow.
I've been impressed with it. It's for being an approachable camera in terms of like you can actually afford it for most stuff. Yeah. I was like, it's actually really solid. Yeah. It's a really solid camera. It's the battery life on that thing is great. Yeah. It really is beautiful. I mean, we're talking about going back to the glass conversation. Yeah. You can put whatever glass you want on it. It's still got.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Well, that was going to be my next question because it's like you've got, obviously Venice 2 is your choice. Now I know by project and by video, lenses change.
Yep.
Obviously based
Camera
on the
does
look.
too, but
But like, just give me like an example of like, say if we were going to shoot another Megan Moroney video, what's the lens of choice there?
Yeah, so,
because you have an idea.
So I think that I've gone through like 3 phases of my perspective on lenses from 2017 to now, right?
Uh-huh.
So I had an era of, the first era was whatever I could get my hands on.
Mm-hmm.
That's the good enough lens.
Yeah.
The second era was I want everything to be vintage with a whole lot of character.
Yeah.
And then I went down that rabbit hole, and I've pretty much used, I think, about every vintage lens there is in the Southeast, at least.
Uh-huh.
And I've shot with them all. I've experimented with them all. And now I'm in the phase where I want the cleanest lens I can get, because I can always affect it more with color, post-processing, the lighting that we're doing, composition we're doing, the focal length and the compression. And so Venice 2 and Signature Primes are my go-to.
Nice.
That's my go-to combination right now.
Yeah.
And the reason that I say Signature Primes are because they're still very clean, but there's this thing that happens with them even when they're not wide open, it has like a wrapping feel.
Yeah.
It's like, so even if your shoulders are sharp, it still feels like there's a space between you and your background with those lenses that like I haven't actually seen anywhere else other than the Master Primes, which are basically the predecessor of the Signature
Did we
Primes.
use those on I'm Not Pretty?
I'm trying to think. Did we use Signature Primes on I'm Not Pretty?
It's funny because I'm going back to that topic where you said you just wanted to be a DP and focus on DP.
Yeah.
I just wanted to focus on directing, so I didn't know what we used.
Dude,
I don't even know what camera we used, to be honest. I should know this, but I don't.
Did we use the Venice on that, or was it LF?
I think it was LF.
I think it was too.
Yeah.
But I don't remember what glass we used on that. I remember it was the same perspective. I had at that time is when I was. When did we shoot I'm Not Pretty? When was that? It was like
that was July 23.
So that last summer was when I made the pivot from like everything had to be vintage glass to like, okay, let me clean it up and then I can affect the image how I want.
Gotcha.
Digital processing, basically.
Yeah.
And so it was probably Signature Primes, I would imagine.
Gotcha.
But again, that's the most expensive combo that you can rent.
Gotcha.
Possibly. A dangerous combo that I've been using a lot, I just did a short film, is it's actually surprised the crap out of me. They're called Vespids, DZO Vespids.
Yeah.
Have you ever used those before?
I have not. I've seen them out in the wild, but I have not.
They are like, I didn't realize, because they were an owner-op friend of mine, let me rent his stuff, and he's like, hey, I've got these Vespids, they're clean, you can mess them up if you want to, like you can, add some effects and stuff in post and add some character stuff, and I was like, okay, let's check them out. And I shoot with them. I'm like, these lenses are great.
Really?
They felt great. And then I looked at them. They're like $1,500 a piece.
He's shaking his head over here too.
I have the DZO, like the picture zooms.
Yeah.
But I've used the Vespid Primes.
The Prime's what I use. Yeah, I haven't used the zoom yet. But what do we have on here today?
The Sigmas.
Sigmas.
We're using the Sigmas for this.
And then I did another shoot a couple of years ago. No, it was just last summer. Again, when I was making that transition into clean glass. The Sigma Cine Primes, they're fast. They're like 2.0.
Yeah.
And I did one of my favorite looking videos I did last year with that glass. And again, pretty affordable. I think that they're like $3 or $4 grand a lens.
Gotcha. Have you used the SP3s yet?
I haven't. I actually, what's crazy about that?
I have one.
I didn't realize they were for what mount?
E-mount.
That's crazy. So
Dude,
do you like them?
I've had it since November 1st. I haven't been able to use it yet because the RF mounts aren't available.
Is that what it is? Dang, dude.
Dude, I'm like on email with Cook like every week going, dude,
when's it coming?
When's it coming? Yeah. And apparently it comes this week.
Oh, dude, that would actually be sick. So you haven't got to put it on a camera yet?
No, not yet. But they reached out and they're like, when you shoot some stuff on the Komodo, can you send it to me?
Send it to me. Yeah. That's awesome.
So I'm like, I'll give you some show stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think those things are going to be kind of badass.
Yeah, so are they the follow-up to their CP3s, you said?
SP3s.
SP3s.
So did I say CP3?
I might have said CP3. CP3 is
SP3.
Yeah. What does SP stand for? Do you know?
I don't.
I wonder. Because do they have the SP 1s and 2s?
I don't think so.
Okay. I didn't know.
I don't know.
I'd heard about them, but I had which it's funny you bring the mount up. I was actually going to, because when they came out at, was it one of the expos they have in Vegas that's like the big camera.
Yeah.
They announced it in tandem with the Barana.
Gotcha.
The Sony Bronto. Have you heard about it?
I haven't heard. I mean, I've heard about it, but I don't what.
It's so Sony has announced this camera, and it comes out Q2 of this year. But it's called the Sony Bronto, which it's funny. The Bronto is an island outside of Venice, a little island.
Gotcha.
And so basically in the Sony cinema line, it's like FX3, FX6, FX9, and then Venice way over here. This Bronto is supposed to land right in the middle.
Oh, really?
And so pricing wise, it does. Like the Venice 2 is $60,000, and then an FX9 is like $15,000.
Gotcha.
This is $25,000.
Oh, wow.
This new camera. And so they announced it with the CP with the SB3s.
Yeah.
And so I really, because the price point, I was like, I've never bought anything in my life. I was like, that's the first thing, that combo is the first combo I've actually considered buying because of, it's the same sensor as the Venice 2. It's the same sensor in the camera.
Gotcha.
As in the Venice 2. It just has ergonomic things that they've basically lowered and adjusted to make it, to be able to put it in a more affordable body.
Is it smaller?
I think it's a little bit bigger than the FX9.
Gotcha.
Or right at the same size as the FX9. But it's not like the Venice 2 where it's like you've got, it's not as big of a block. It's more like FX9 where it's kind of almost docu-style shoulder rig ergonomics kind of thing.
Gotcha.
I haven't seen it in person yet. I've heard a couple people in Atlanta who've got to play with it.
Yeah.
But I've wanted to get my hands on that because that's the first time I've ever actually considered buying a camera. Because I've been, there's...
I was gonna say, do you own one?
I own nothing.
That's crazy.
Nothing.
But I mean, obviously you can rent them,
Yeah. So that's back to our gear preference talk. The reason that I don't own anything specific is because my day to day is so drastically different.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have done things that need to feel. This needs to feel like it's this super shallow, super artistic thing. This needs to feel we need a super deep stop, and we need 4 of these cameras, and we need blah, blah, blah. So there's these different circumstances that are constantly evolving.
Yeah.
Literally, I could shoot 3 projects in a week, and all 3 of them wouldn't need the same gear, let alone...
Yeah, exactly.
And so what I've found with the way I operate right now, I don't want to... buy a piece of gear and then for the sake of me making money impose it on the project just to make more money on that gear. And there are things that I could buy that I could probably use on every job, but the Bronto is the first camera where I'm like, wait, that's a good price point. It looks incredible, and I can use it on a big project and also take it over here and use it on the small project and not feel bad about either of them.
Yeah,
that's the first camera I've ever been like, oh, that's
interesting.
Because of my relationship I have with the Venice 2.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
When does it come out?
It just says Q2 this year.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
I think this is when that podcast comes out is going to be Q2. So
so it might be
it's probably going to be like old technology.
Right.
How it moves.
Well,
so
you bought cameras. You know how it is, man. It changes so fast.
It changes super fast. I mean, on this podcast we got 2 Komodos on us, and then we got a Helium as a wide shot, and we got a Canon R5C doing a VR thing. But I started a long time ago with Red. Red 1, man, that thing was a beast.
I've heard about that.
That thing was massive, and
was it loud?
It was
the
loud.
fans were loud, right?
The fan was loud, and you had this huge brick hard drive on it. I'll never forget a buddy of mine who used to live here in Nashville, Brett Weeks. He used to work at DRNA.
Okay,
And they had one. And when I was working for Keith Urban, he was like, man, he goes, Keith's playing the stadium, and he's like, we got to take this out. This is 2007, and he's like, we got to go take it out. And I'm like, man, I'd love to shoot. And there's a photo of me on stage with Keith with his guitar and me behind him with this rig that's just massive. I'm going to have to cut away to that to show the photo, but it was just this heavy camera. And now, with the Komodo, obviously it's just so small and portable. And, I love taking the Komodo out on the road, it looks cinematic.
Sure.
I love shooting that style out on the road, but this is the one question that I'm asking everybody. One camera, one lens, you're on the road for a weekend.
Oh Lord.
One camera, one lens.
Am I
You're on the road with Cadillac 3.
Am I doing mostly photos or am I doing mostly video
both
stuff? But do I have to do both?
You have to do both.
Dude, Dude, I'm telling you.
Makes you think.
It does. I'm telling you, I got so lucky whenever I picked the A7S II because at the time, I think I'm still go with that camera. Or how many S3s do they have? Do they have like S3
I don't know.
and S4?
What are they up to now? Are they up
on
to
the S's?
It might be at 4. It might be at
That would be the camera.
Oh,
that would
wow.
be the camera, and then the G
Yeah.
Master 24-70.
1,000%, dude.
That's
Dude,
would be the combo.
mine's a Canon R5 and
Yeah.
the 24-70.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so
24-70
versatile.
that's the I think for it's the one.
Yeah.
If I had to pick a zoom, I'll tell you a crazy story about my touring time. So do you remember how a little bit ago I said everybody on the tour that I went on was everybody had very tight systems, and I was the annoying guy who came in and took the junk bunk, so junk had to be scattered.
Right.
So what I did in response to that, it's like I want these guys to like me. I don't want to be taken. I don't have book bags over here and Pelican cases over there.
Right.
They're gonna hate me if I do that. How I toured. This is literally for 2 years. This is how I toured. This is no exaggeration. I brought a Sony A7S II, a 16-35, a 50 mil prime, a 7200, and an SD card.
Oh, wow.
That's it. I didn't have a bag. I put them in my bunk when I wasn't using them. I laid them in my bunk. I didn't have a battery charger because I just plugged the USB-C right into the wall.
Right.
One SD card because it only had the one slot. And, or did it have two and I only put one in? I don't remember if that camera had two slots or whatnot. And that's it. I never lost a card.
If you didn't have
a backup battery, didn't have a backup SD card for 2 years.
Wow.
Never lost anything and never had a camera die.
So where would you put your cameras when they're on stage, or your lenses when you were shooting?
Carry it.
Or you just carry it with you?
I would shoot like this and have my...
No way.
And I would pick... So basically what I would do is I would kind of find like a base station backstage. And I would either set my lenses there. And so if like I was going to go to the pit, right? So I would go to the pit. I would take my 16-35 on it, get that shot that I like to get of Jaron at the edge of the stage, let him come out, get some of the audience, get that 16 mil wide. And then I'd throw on the 7200 and get some portraits for everybody. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take the 50 and go on stage. And that's literally what I did. I even lost caps. So there was a point where my 50 mil didn't even have caps, front or back.
Oh, man.
And if you ever next time you talk to Matthew Bellamy asking him about my tour stuff, I didn't believe in lens caps. And this is great. This is a crazy, and I had a reason I said this.
Don't shaking his head over there.
I didn't believe in lens caps, and I never had them on because I literally, if the lens got fucked up, I wanted to shoot it fucked up.
Yeah.
Can I say fucked up?
Yeah,
okay.
totally. Yeah.
If the lens got scuffed and scratched, I loved it.
Yeah.
And so those lenses are so beat up. Because like I said, I never had a case.
It's probably a cool look, though.
It was.
Right?
I never used filtration. So I've never used filtration. I've never used... to this day, I don't use it on video stuff or photo stuff. I've never used filtration. I always believe... Get what you can get here, and you can always affect it.
Yeah.
If you want it to bloom or you want it to soften, you can always affect it.
Exactly.
That's kind of but if you've put on a quarter stop of this or an eighth stop of that,
you can't change it.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then when you start to sharpen that, then it gets weird and it doesn't look good. So, but you can always soften it and make it look better, if you're going that direction. But I didn't have it. I would have my bag with my clothes. I would shove all the stuff in there, and when I wasn't using that, you would open the curtain in my bunk. And there'd be my camera and my lenses right there. And that's it.
This is how you tour.
For 2 years. All in the effort to make the crew like me and not hate me for being the guy with cases all over. And so I took it to the extreme. And then I had my laptop, but I would just leave it in the front. Because there was like the slot beside the main table that I could just set it there. And it was always there. But that was my my crazy thing that I did for 2 years. And literally, looking back, it's so... ridiculous that I only took the one SD card and one battery because I didn't want to have to deal with battery chargers. So what do? I just bring the same thing that charges my laptop. That's what I plugged into the camera.
What about hard drives and stuff like that?
Didn't use them. I just, whatever I had, I would just put it on the computer and I'd offload it when I got home.
Gotcha.
I literally didn't want any footprint. That was my goal. I didn't want to be... That was the reason that I worked so well with Cadillac 3 is they didn't want me to be there physically in their lives. They wanted a friend there, but they didn't want a photographer with crap all over him.
Yeah.
They wanted a guy, and if he caught pictures, then takes pictures, and the thing that I learned very, very quickly with them was being as out of their way as possible was the number one priority. and getting the cool photos when I get a chance.
Yeah.
But the priority is being out of their way.
Another thing, what was like with Cadillac 3, what was the process with them? Like, did you have to edit photos right after a show?
Yeah.
Or was it just kind of like, just do whatever, you want?
So that is actually...
Because every artist is different.
Every artist is different.
Yeah.
But I mainly toured with Ryan Hurd in Cadillac 3, a lot more Cadillac 3, but I've done probably 8 or 9 runs with Ryan. And it was interesting, the differences even in just those two. Ryan would want the stuff throughout the day immediately. Like if we went out and he sound checked, or if he went and grabbed a coffee, he'd want those pictures quick. Yeah. But the show, get them to me tomorrow. That's no big deal. And with Cadillac, their sets were usually 9 to like 10:30, 9 to 11. Shoot their show. I would be up till like 1:32, and then Neil would be asleep, the drummer that also managed the social media accounts. But when he woke up, he wanted to post immediately.
Yeah, and he had them.
And so in his text, he had 10 or 12 photos that they knew they would like, that I knew that they would like in terms of what they would want to post. And that's it. That's all I did with them. Yeah. Was just
Chris and Carrie are the same way. It was like, get a great sound check photo. Or wherever we were, Madison Square Garden. You get that good, cold, empty building shot. And then turn in photos after the show.
Do both those artists? Do they run their own social medias?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
That's because some artists don't. And so it's less important to them, obviously. Yeah. But Neil was the drummer. Neil, the drummer for Cadillac, ran everything for them. Yeah. And so he was like, hey, let me post a story that we're sound checking. We're playing in Little Rock, Arkansas tonight. Yeah. And then he would post that at 3 o'clock and the show's at 7. Doors, that kind of thing. Yeah. And it was a little different from show to show with them, but for the most part, it was like before I fell asleep, they would have the delivered photos.
So you didn't do any video stuff on the road?
So the first few weekends I went out.
Because I was going to say, you go back to kind of like watching like recap videos and being inspired by all that stuff.
Yeah.
And did you ever end up doing any of that?
So I did a few of those, the recap videos, but for whatever reason, okay, I do know the reason. Okay, I remember now. We stopped doing them. I still kept recording footage.
Just in case.
Yeah. And speaking of dangerous, I was doing photos and videos on one camera, one car. Dude, looking back, it's crazy. But, but it worked. I got lucky. Yeah. But we were just archiving the footage. Yeah. With the mentality of, in 10 years when we circle back on all this, it's all there to make this longer form thing. Yeah. Because for them, it was less significant to have we just played Little Rock and Memphis and this town this weekend. It was more important to have a couple photos, get that out that we just played this show, because people want to know. Like, people want to, if they just went to a show, if I just saw you in whatever town, I would love to see a photo of that show to see your perspective.
Exactly.
And so it's an important thing, but the video for them and their fans, it just didn't translate as importantly and significantly. So we quickly stopped with like the recap video type edits, and it all just became archival stuff, and with the intention of knowing that it will eventually be used for more documentary type stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Long form.
I feel like, a lot of, and this is a note too for a lot of, photographers and videographers out on the road. It's like, I feel like, people nowadays, like in this time, they're shooting solely for social media right now. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's like, there's got to be a sense of capturing moments that don't necessarily have to be out there. Sure. But like you say, 10 years down the line, you never know where this artist is going to be in 10 years. It could be a documentary. Yeah. So you want legit footage, and not just like footage that was just used for a social media, recap video.
Yeah. I would say my I guess my angle in all this would be we're being paid to do the stuff that is seen almost immediately. Yeah. Like if you're being paid to shoot a show, you're being paid for the Instagram post the next day, basically. Yeah. But I would argue that the most important part of our job is the stuff that does go in the archives. Yeah. Because, like I said, I have basically Cadillac's. They're in the process of building like a coffee table book kind of thing for like their 15 years they've been a band, and all of those photos that we have a folder of like 100 photos that I've taken of them over the couple of years that I was with them, and of those 100 photos, like 3 or 4 of them were actually used in social media posts. And the other 90 were photos that we all loved. Yeah. We're like, this shouldn't be on social media. Yeah. Not for any explicit reasons or anything like that. Yeah. But like, it was just, it doesn't make sense to post this, but like this moment between the two of them sitting beside each other, like that was an incredible moment that should be archived. And so I would argue that the archival stuff that's like truly like would be the documentary type feel photography, that's more important than the Instagram post stuff.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
And looking back at the end of our careers at the photos that like are our favorites, like for me, even just looking at those 2 years, my favorite 3 or 4 photos are stuff that never got posted.
Yeah. One of them is an iPhone photo of Jaron and Steven Tyler.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then you see that in a book one day. Damn, man, I took that with my iPhone.
Literally. What'd you shoot that on? I think it was iPhone 10.
Yeah. Well, and that's the crazy thing. It's, I mean, nowadays it's like people shoot so much with the iPhone, video and photos.
Yep.
I mean, there is, obviously we know technically it's a huge difference.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, normal eyes, they don't see that difference.
Yeah.
But we see it,
Oh, for sure.
And, it's like, I just, it could be used for, quick social posts and stuff like that. And it benefits that kind of use of it. But for like long form standing stuff, the stuff that we go out and shoot with normal cameras, like that's just, you can't.
Yeah, and also I feel like the use case of those things. So it's like for more, intimate's not the right word, but more things that like you want a quick bit of communication. Like the iPhone works really, really great for that. Yeah. It's like, hey guys, it's me doing this. Or if it's like just hanging out for this moment and it's just you in a personal moment or a private moment or something that you want to capture, an iPhone's perfect for that.
Yeah.
But in my mind, like we were talking about the archival stuff and like, I love watching documentary, like the Tom Petty documentary, the Foo Fighters Back and Forth documentary, the Eagles documentary. It's like the way that stuff was captured. That is the long form like treasures that we are creating in my mind. You know what I mean? But like, hey guys, we're getting ready to play the show in Boise tonight or whatever it is. Like that's totally fine being an iPhone because it's about that connection that you get through a phone. Yeah. But the stuff that's like, oh, that person was an icon. Yeah. It needs to be captured in like a larger format.
Exactly. 100%. 100%. So I gotta touch on that. I know Dylan was telling me to he's giving me the X that we're at. We're at about an hour and a half.
Oh, hell yeah.
We're at an hour and a half right now.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Well, dude, I've been having
so let's just keep
time
going.
flies.
Keep going because I got a couple other things I want to talk about really quick. I know this is rad, dude. I love these stories, dude. Now I know why podcasts last 6 hours.
Yeah, dang, dude. I have more too. That's fun.
It was funny last night. We were kind of just we're all talking and we ended up watching the video that you just did.
Which one?
The one with the skulls.
Oh, dude, that one was fun.
Holy crap, dude! What was that? Who's the artist again?
So David Kushner, who is incredible.
Yeah,
he is really, really great. In that, the cool part of that project was the director Matthew. I had known him. He had edited a project that I had shot, and we'd been on like a couple text threads, and he shot BTS on this one shoot, and getting to meet him, it was just one of those things where. Speaking of, you never know who you're meeting or what you're meeting or who it is. And so you've got to treat every interaction with significance. He was shooting BTS a year ago, and now he directed that video.
Wow.
It's one of my favorite videos.
Dude, I watched that, and I was literally blown away, dude. I mean, just the camera work, the edit, the color.
I'm telling you,
like,
Matthew came
everything about it.
Matthew came in with such a clear vision that all we did, me, Daniel, Matthew, Paul Williams, like all we did was just come in and execute exactly what he wanted. And so he's going to be up next for sure.
It was funny because it was Barrett that we were watching the video with. And he's like, damn it, man. So Barrett asked me to ask you, what were the 2 lights that were used above him in that scene?
Yeah. So perfect. I'm glad that was a question because that was a very deliberate thing. So Maddie did art on that and we found, a couple of old fluorescent housings, and I just have this thing where I don't like seeing tubes in a frame,
right?
And so I was like, how can I put a light in there, but it's not a tube, and I don't want to see like the long tube, right? So, I thought, what can I put in there? Couldn't come up with anything. I said, let's just put a tube in there, but I'm going to clip it, and we literally just blew out the tube and make it look like it's one fixture because it's just blown out in the entire fixture, and so it's just 2 tubes. But just the way we exposed for it, we clipped it.
See, that's the shit I love about you, dude.
Yeah.
Man. And Maddie crushed that, dude.
It was.
She built it. She built that skull.
She built the skull thing. The skull mount. That's been without a doubt the number one thing that I have been asked about. Is like, what was that green screen, or how did you guys do the skulls?
Right.
Like, no, Maddie literally one by one made this big structure, I guess you would call it, wrapped it in chicken wire, and then took every single skull and seafoam sprayed it.
Unreal.
And placed it on.
Unreal.
Placed
Dude, it was
sick.
so good. There was everything about that video was so good.
It was a really low budget video too.
Really? Yeah. I don't even want to know.
Well,
you can't tell. Don't tell me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't want to expose it.
Yeah. It no, it was. I mean, it wasn't like it was like people were working free or anything, but it was like, and generally when you're talking about something of the scale that we were trying to execute at, it would have had a significantly more amount of funding.
So that's another question I had for you, because this is something I don't know. What's your most favorite video you've ever done?
Oh Lord.
I mean, there's a shitload of them, but it's like, what's the one that you're just like, man, I'm just super proud of that one?
Oh man.
Because you've won, like, I mean, you've been a part of videos that have won CMAs and ACMs and CMTs and all that, right?
Right.
And it kind of focus in like on a country video, since we're kind of focusing this season is like a country, you know?
Yeah. Man. Okay, so favorite video in terms of like what I like to watch, or favorite video in terms of like what we accomplished, or how do you want me to answer that question? Like, what do you mean by favorite, I guess?
The one that, say, like, your most favorite of to cinematography. Watch back? Yeah.
It's What He Didn't Do, Carly Pearce with Alexa Campbell. Yeah, that one was the one where we really got to dive in on. We treated it like a movie, I guess. Like, we had the way we thought about the lensing, the way we thought about the camera work, the way we thought about the lighting. It was very like, we were like, let's step away from like music video land, let's step into movie land. Yeah. And that's how we kind of thought about every scene, every setting was more in that frame. And I feel like we did a really intentional job of focusing on treating it like a film. Yeah. And that's what I want to do, is I want to make films. Yeah. And I feel like we did that. Amazing. We honed in on making. Amazing. It's so good. I mean, it's so good. I love that video. I love watching that video. But in terms of, I really like the one. What's the one that she did with the water at the ocean? Or was that one? What was the name of that one? Was that What He Didn't Do? I don't know. Oh God. Do we have to look it up? I can. Oh yeah, not the water one. I'm talking about. There's just so many videos. Look at. So this is the one I'm talking. Ooh, We Don't Fight Anymore. So we might have to make an edit there. Oh, we don't. We keep it real. Right, we keep it real. What He Didn't Do was the one on the beach. In the beach, yeah. Okay, and then so that's, We Don't Fight Anymore was the one I was talking about. Gotcha. We Don't Fight Anymore was the where we were in this house and we really got to hone it. Yes. Yeah. And the house burns down. And not to spoil it, but that was my favorite one because. Of just, I want to be shooting films. Like, that's, first it was I wanted to work in country music, and then it was I want to make music videos, and now it's I want to make films. And that was like the ever evolving mind of my Dylan is currently at figuring out how to make things that look like films. Yeah. And that was one. Where was that shot? Watertown. No, the beach one. Boston, Manamet Beach. Oh wow! Yeah, wow. There was another Small World thing where a worlds collided. That's crazy. We were up there and we got the connection through. I'm gonna mess this up, but Carly's tour manager knew the family that lived there somehow. Oh wow! So, anyways, we were walking on this beach, right? And the owner of the property was like, "Yeah, there was another guy, kind of like you guys. He was a video guy." He's been here before from Nashville. And we're like, oh, that's crazy. There's a bunch of video guys from Nashville. And like, yeah, he was with, it was Dustin Lynch. He was here. Him and I think his guy's name was Daniel. And I was like, no way. No. So Daniel Verlet had been there a few years before I had with Dustin. And the way that happened was the person that we got the connection through was friends with Dustin's guitar player. And so Dustin's guitar player is actually who owns, his parents are the ones who own the property in Manamit Beach.
Gotcha. Wow.
And so just a small world, they were like, there's this, he was a video guy. I think his name was Daniel.
That is so funny. So, Daniel gets around.
I'm telling you, man. How long was he with Dustin? 5 years, 6 years, probably.
Oh,
I need to ask him.
You know, I
felt like
I don't
a long
know how
time,
long he was with him, but when I met Daniel, it was 2016 when he was with Chris, out on tour with Chris and Dustin. I don't know how long he was with them.
Well, when I started working with him in end of 2019, beginning of 2020, like he was working his way out at that point.
Yeah.
So that's at least 4 years. So,
dude, Daniel still is. I mean, but he doesn't do it anymore. But his edits were so insane.
Yep, he's an incredible editor. Still is.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, you and Daniel gel so well on sets. It's like you guys don't really talk, but like it's like you guys
just
know.
Yeah.
And
you can finish the sentences.
Exactly. That's how we work together. And so I tell people all the time, I'm like, Daniel is an incredible operator because he's an incredible operator and has the skill set of that.
Yeah.
But he's an incredible operator because he's
an editor. Yeah.
And so he knows what's necessary and what's unnecessary.
100%.
Not just because it looks
100%.
cool, but he's like, you won't need this, you'll need this. And then it's like, oh wow, that's someone who has perspective of what we're actually doing here, not just someone trying to get cool stuff.
And I feel like a good Steadicam op in music video world kind of has a musical sense to them too.
Has to.
They have to.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I feel like Tony Reyes and Daniel Vorlay. You know, the
goats.
There's a sense of the music and the beat and how to hit it when it needs to be hit. It's like, man, whenever I use Daniel in a music video or anything, you know, it's just like, I don't have to tell him anything. You know, he just does it and he fucking nails it every single time.
Yeah.
I hate it that he's going to see this and he's just like, his ego's going to go.
But literally, how our process together, because obviously he's my operator, not only for Steadicam, but he obviously does Trinity now. Steadicam, Trinity, he does my handheld operating now. He does, even if it's on sticks, like he's just my operator.
Yeah.
He's the extension of my body basically at this point. But our language is so like, we've worked together and like I love his workflow so much that it's to the point where it's like, so we show up to set, and if it is something that's like in the film world, we're like, okay, here's the language we're using. It's soft, it's subtle, it's this, it's that. It's think of it this way. It's like when a person does this kind of thing, this is how we react. All right, see you.
Yeah.
And we set up the first shot. And he's like, that's exactly what I was thinking too.
Yeah. Well, I feel like when we did the Megan Moroney I'm Not Pretty video. Like you didn't even pick up a camera.
No, Daniel the whole time. He's the man. And like I said, having someone like that, as you grow as a cinematographer, even with Matthew Bellamy, it's like Matthew Bellamy and I literally remember one of the first shoots we did. We actually met a long time ago back in 2018. And we learned what white balance was together.
That's funny.
I'm not kidding.
That is funny.
And so to know how long Matthew and I have been working together.
Dude, I love Matty B, man.
He's the best.
He's just such a what an energy, just such a good dude, you know. I've got Alexa Campbell on the podcast as well.
Yeah, dude.
So
she's so great.
Yeah.
She's another one that another director friend that I met touring first, and then in 2020 became a director.
Amazing. That's so awesome.
Yeah, dude.
Well, dude, we're at an hour and 41 minutes.
Well,
man, this is crazy. This is crazy. So let's just wrap it up by this. Yep. Advice to the new generation of filmmakers, videographers, photographers, anything. Like, is there anything that you want to like? I mean, we've covered so much and such cool stories and stuff. You know, is there anything you want to say?
So my advice that I always give, if like we were talking about at the beginning of this conversation, there's always people in our DMs and asking how we get into this line of work. How did you get into this line of work? How did you get started? How do I get started? That kind of thing. My advice, I guess, would be twofold. I've kind of already said this, but the first thing is shoot something. And I know it sounds so cliche and you hear it all the time, but you've got to shoot all the time. And what's going to happen is a lot of things, but one of the things that comes with it is people that are going to see that you're shooting. No matter if what you're shooting isn't big or if it's not a certain way, people are going to see you're shooting. So there's an optics that comes with, oh yeah, I was just shooting this the other day. I was shooting that the other day. There's an optic that comes with doing what you talk about doing. And so figure out a way to shoot something, get a hold of a camera, whatever don't worry about the tech specs of that camera. Get the camera, and your style is going to come through really quickly. Once you do things, once you've done 4 or 5 shoots, you're going to be like, oh, why did I do that the same every time? Well, that's just my style. And you're going to hone in on it, or you're going to back off of it if you don't like it,
Yeah, exactly.
And so you're going to learn you're going to learn so quick. If you can figure out a way to shoot anything, be it a wedding, a music video, shoot your friends acting in a short film, whatever it is, figure out a way to shoot it, because you're going to have to learn how you work. And if you don't know how you work, then you can't go work for other people. And so you've got to shoot.
Yep. 1,000% agree.
And that's
with that,
the
dude.
only thing. I had the luxury of being able to shoot for free for a little while because I was cutting grass. Like that was what was paying my bills.
Yeah.
And I know it's a little bit. It's a complicated subject about the shooting for free. But when you're getting started, do whatever it takes.
Do whatever it takes
to be for free.
Do anything.
And if you want to get in the film side, do whatever it takes to get on film set, even if that means being a PA for free for 12-hour days, and you're the one lugging the coolers and carrying this and moving that. And it's just, you have to do it because your name and your face have to be seen consistently enough for people to be like, oh, I remember that. Yeah, that guy, that was the guy that, what did he do? Well, I don't know. I know his name.
Yeah.
And then when they're thinking, oh, we need another guy to move this. Well, if your name is in someone's brain because you're working and being busy and in their face all the time, you're going to naturally get more stuff. And so when that opportunity does arise, you better have already shot a lot because you've got to shoot.
Yep. Now it's your turn.
Yeah. And then the other piece of advice would be shoot as much as you can, but also be doing it in a congruent space with what you actually do have an interest in.
Yeah.
Because a conversation that I had with Nick Allen was Nick Allen is an incredible cinematographer, one of the best cinematographers that's ever worked in Nashville, and he wants to work in film and television just like I do. And he moved to LA to do that, but he moved there as the guy who makes incredible music videos.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be seen as anything other than the guy who makes incredible music videos because everybody's going to want you for their music video to make an incredible music video.
Yeah.
Well, I want to work in film. Well, you made these incredible music videos. So there's the working in what you want to work in, even if it means it being at a lower level when you start.
Yeah.
And the type of projects you want to be in. Because as long as you're working and you're working in a way that you like to work, the money will naturally follow.
Yeah, exactly.
That's been my experience with and with a lot of professionals that I've worked with. It's like if you do the thing that you say you want to do, you figure out a way to do it, even if it's costing you money, even if it's you have to go work a 10-hour day somewhere else to pay for this. This other day. Being busy is the most important part because the money will naturally appear.
That's what I always say. It's just like you fill your passion. You have to have the passion first because screw the money. Passion. You got to have the eye. You got to learn
that, and
then the money will follow.
It's honestly, I have this conversation a lot with like younger guys getting into it. It's the money is the easy part. It's that you have to be absolutely passionate about what you're doing, and like you have to be like kind of silly with how passionate you are about it. And like people are like, you and Preston shot 5 music videos last week, and I'm like, yeah, we love fucking shooting music videos.
Exactly.
And so it's like now I'm doing a little bit bigger music videos, and it's like, how'd you get these big music videos? Well, I fucking did 5 yesterday. It's like that's how I was able to get this music video.
Exactly.
And so that's my advice: is shoot as much as you possibly can and do things that you want to do.
That's killer, man.
And that's all you can. That's all you can really do. And then even if you don't become uber successful, well, if you look back at it, you're doing something you really like doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So
True.
You didn't really lose that bad.
Yeah. So I'm going to lose you to film and TV at some point.
Well, that's,
you're going to graduate.
One of
I'm
these
going to be like, fuck, Dylan Rucker's gone, man.
One of these days, that's.
Well, dude, I'll tell you, man, I freaking love working with you, dude.
Likewise, man.
It's like we've done work together before, and we're still going to do more down the line.
I know it.
I'm ready, dude. 2024, let's fucking go.
That's
dude.
right, man.
Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, dude.